All right, guys, another Sunday scan coming at you. We had Monday off, so technically it is a Monday night scan. It's nice to have these long weekends. Like I've told you before, I have trouble getting away, so it's always nice to be forced to take that time off and not really have the anxiety that comes along with wondering what you're missing when the markets are open and you're not at the screens. And I know that's not a problem for a lot of people, but for myself, as well as many of my friends, it's always in the back of your mind. And really the only days that you can just fully unwind, put your feet up and relax and not worry about, what else is happening are days like today. So usually this weekend, being President's Day and all, usually I rent a big condo up at the mountains, and myself and a bunch of my trading friends and their spouses, usually we go up and we do a ski weekend for 3 or 4 days, which I always look forward to. Every year it's great. You get to just hang out, hit the slopes, do the whole lodge thing, and then do a fire and kind of talk a little bit of shop here and there. At night, and it's fun. It's fun to see people that you work with every single day, but you don't necessarily see every single day. Maybe only once a year for some of these people. So unfortunately, didn't do it this year. It just it doesn't make sense, and hopefully that changes next year. But we'll see what happens. First and foremost, winners for this week. Nick the winner sounded like a winner to me, so you've got the free t-shirt, as well as Eric Vo. You can tell that the new apparel came in, so if you guys are interested, I'll do the same thing this week as well. Anybody that buys any IU apparel, again, we don't do this to make money, but any proceeds goes to Traders for a Cause. But anybody that buys, I'll match dollar for dollar and ship it over to Traders for a Cause. So go check out the store. It is not the one on our website. We do have both, but I have the link in the description. I will also include the link above. But John from Loyal Brand's been taking care of everything and shipping out these designs. And we've got some black, some gray, some blues, and a bunch of different colors as well. So figured I'd switch it up. I told him I had too many black shirts, but either way, this shirt is exactly what we've been talking about and exactly what's been working, right? So it's I've been doing this 18 years now, and you have to adapt, and the folks that are not adapting are not outperforming in this market. You're probably doing well, and you probably are upset because you're not doing as well as you should. And it's just minor changes that you have to, make in order to outperform. And that's all I've done right now. It did take me a little while to become comfortable with it, because there was a period of time where I was like, how long can this last? What if, what if it only lasts another week? What if it only lasts another, month? Whatever. But you waste time thinking about that. It's just like somebody asking me, hey, are summers always slow? What do you think about, what happens if the summer is slow? Like, how would you change? You know what? We need to worry about that when we need to worry about that. Right now, it doesn't matter. And we can assume that this is not going to stop. We're going to assume that this is going to continue to go for, as long as people are, in my opinion, working from home. I think there's some type of stat that 30 or 40% of the workforce is now going to be at home anyway. So you don't have, people over your shoulders at work when you're working in your typical 9 to 5, hiding your trading platform like I know a lot of traders do. Firsthand, I've seen it. I've got PMs and folks that always are having to minimize their trading screens at their work. But regardless, on a serious note, I think we're in the third inning, like I've said, maybe third, fourth inning, and it's a very slow game, and I don't see this stopping anytime soon. There is no shortage of traders, and holding works. Holding works for people right now. So that's all they know. If you think about it, I wrote this, I think, last week as well, but think about it in terms of, how many new traders are out there right now? How many new traders came in after, all this COVID mess And the only thing they've seen is literally from like last March, April, May until now. And what has it taught them? It's taught them to buy every dip. It's taught them to just hold. It's taught them to be patient. And so we're seeing a lot of that also trickle down into OTC land, which I've talked a lot about as well. So once again, adapting. Sure, embrace the chase on these small caps. Be, open-minded about what the true potential is on some of these. But also, I'm adapting and going back to my roots when I was, an 18-year-old kid trying to figure out, day trading. And that was OTCs. And OTCs, just like I said last week, are as hot, if not hotter, than they were when I first started at 18 years old. So, that's, get out of your comfort zone. Try it. See if you, see how you do with those types of trades. They're not for everybody. And, a lot of people have asked me what broker to use for that. Obviously, if you're going to use a direct access broker, it just doesn't make sense, right? You're going to be paying a fortune just to get in and out. So, OTCs are practically free at E-Trade, Ameritrade, Schwab, all those big box retailers. And, I would not suggest, obviously, trading them somewhere, like any of the main brokers that we use for small caps and NASDAQ trading. So, the only reason or the only way that I would trade them or if there are higher price stocks in OTC land, or I am looking for the short side. So I'm not going to trade, millions and millions of shares of these sub-penny stocks and pay, tens of thousands of dollars just to have the chance of making money. So let's see. My notes for today, the daily approach for me. For me right now, I've been trading at a very really nice level. I like where I'm at right now. And, there are certain times where you get a little bit of FOMO and you want to be part of the action, just like with GME and AMC. And there's big opportunities coming. And, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. and I'm doing all of that. But for me right now, I just want to focus on being the best trader that I can, taking only the best trades, scaling into only the best trades. And that's it. I'm super patient. I think a lot of the people that are watching this that are in the room, you've probably seen the change over the last 3-4 months of me on the broadcast in the morning, where I am just super patient about taking trades. I'll take stuff from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And maybe a little bit in between, but I am not looking to push the envelope, into the open. I'm not worried about, missing this big trade. There's just so much going on. For me, it's about how do I make the most I can with the least amount of stress, the least amount of drawdown, and, so on and so forth. So, and just to kind of repeat what I said last week, yeah, I could be doing even bigger. I could be doing exceptionally well, but I always like to look at both sides. And, there are certain moments where had I been extra large on a particular name and it went into a circuit halt, would I have made different changes? And so the only thing that I don't want to do right now is take myself off the A game. And if I do that, that's not to say I won't bounce back immediately and reset, refocus, and next, just like we talked about. But I don't want to challenge that. I don't want to have to do that, because right now I'm just so focused on the best of the best. And I'll trade other things, but I'm not going to size into stuff that I'm wrong on. I'm not going to size into the front side. I will start in on names. Sometimes you'll see I'll have one little arrow or two like on the front side, just to kind of zone in, get focused, and become one with a particular name, I guess, so to speak. So that allows me to go from looking all around to I'm zoned in, and I'm waiting to get the information that I need that says, hey, it's time to go. It's time to size in. Something shifted. there was a big, either stuff move, failed follow through momentum, whatever it may have been. I would not have seen that if I'm looking all around and don't have a position on that particular name. When I have a position, it's right here in front of me and I am watching it on the chart. And if I don't, then there's a good chance that maybe I flip that chart and it goes off radar and then I end up missing the name. That is why I take a starter and dabble in small. And then as you see, I start to gather information, key levels. And just because I take a trade does not mean it's a good trade for a new trader. What I do is I get in there and I start to soak, figure out what levels are key that I need to focus on. All right, this level held. So now I need to remember that when it comes back down, that's the key level. Or I can suggest to, new traders, hey, you may not want to touch this until this level breaks, because we're on the front side, but each time it keeps on coming back and basing here. Or each time it comes under, it kind of feels like it's trapping, and then it breaks through. You get this information by being involved. If you're not involved, you don't get it. A couple conversations that I've had this week, both from exceptional traders to traders that are up and coming. On the far out, greatness side, that purpose conversation, like once you get there, I've always told you guys, once you get to, X, guess what? You need 2X, 5X, 10X, right? And so I'm talking to a couple traders, and myself included, where I'm sharing this feeling of like confusion, like what is my next step? What is my next goal in life? Because the problem with trading, like I've always said, is somebody always makes more, right? And then when you get to your level, then all of a sudden you want, the next level and the next level. But what if you keep on playing that game until, in my case, I'm 40, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70. You're just always chasing. Why do we do this if we're always chasing? So, I've had a lot of that conversation just because this year is one of those years for a lot of traders. And just like I said last week, 2020 was my best year ever, and I'm already over that in 2021. And so you start to have these, where do I want to go with this? What else, what can I do from here? And so I would challenge you guys to make sure that if you are trading exceptionally well, make sure you do kind of think about that and question it, because the last thing you want to do is watch 10 years go by and realize you didn't really need to do that, and you could have done so much more, or you could have made differences in different places. So that's the real truth, and it's confusing, and it's hard. So always kind of revisit what your purpose is, and kind of think about it, and verbally with friends, whatever you want to do. But the trouble is that it always changes, and that's up to you to figure out where that off switch is. Maybe it's not an off switch, but it's a change, right? Patience. I've talked about this before, and this is from the other end of the spectrum, right? So everybody's killing it, and you feel like you're not, right? Remember why you started doing what you did. So, for example, I have a friend that is a general contractor, and his goal was to just replace his income as a trader, right? So he wants to replace what he was making as a general contractor as a trader. And as he does that, as he progresses as a trader, his goal is to stop doing the general contracting, which is what he started general contracting for, to fund his trading, at least his ability to attempt to become a trader. That's why he started this. And then as he got better, his goal was to shift to just be a trader. So there has to be a point where you just say, all right, I am going to do it. It's the hardest thing in the world, right? So, we talked this weekend, and his decision is basically June or July. It's no more general contracting, and it's just straight trader. And we went through the ups and downs, right? So when COVID hit, obviously things kind of got paused. People didn't want people in their houses. People didn't know if they were going to have money tomorrow. And so the whole general contracting game is just like on hold for a minute. And when that happened, his trading took on another level. And, from somebody that's just kind of, la-di-da, slowly grinding to starting to see some serious success. And that is a direct correlation with being at the desk, screen time, not trying to juggle doing the job with, trading and things like that. So for him, it's just right now, it's when do I make that change? And so I reminded him that, his numbers keep on going up, right? If I could just make this if I could just do this, if I could just do that. And I reminded him why he started. What was your purpose? Your purpose was to replace your income, right? So if you need 200, 500, or $1 million a year, you have to think back reality-wise. I'm not crushing dreams here, but what was your purpose? And if you tell your neighbor that's making 60K that, you're thinking about stopping general contracting, but you need to replace it with at least $1 million a year, just think about that. Think about that for a second. It doesn't really make sense. Okay. So you have to think about what your purpose is, why you did this, why you want to do this, and don't lose sight of what your original goals were. That doesn't mean you're not going to get there. Just make sure that, and again, getting back to patience and time fixes everything. What I had explained to him, he had a little bit of a downturn. And so he starts to second guess and question. But that downturn started to happen when he was off the desk and he was trying to keep pace with what he was doing before. And then you start to compound the loss a little bit. We've all done it. And so I explained to him that happens. It has to happen so that it can happen, right? One of the best traders that I know, when he started to finally start to, get, some serious gains, lost $1 million on a particular squeeze. And, you think he planned for that? No. Did he start to compound his loss? Yes. And, it happens to the best traders that I know. So at some point in your career, you're going to be faced with some type of situation, just like me on Kodak. It just seems like each time, you get something sneaks up on you. But you have to be able to identify it, and these things happen to you so that when it happens again, you've been there before. You know how to react. And had that not happened on Kodak, maybe I would have got screwed on GME or AMC. I wouldn't have been able to understand how or why this could happen, right? So what I told him is that think about where you want to be and think about a year out. And where do you need to be each day? And because his focus was like, oh, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. If you're always trying to grab these different numbers intraday, you're not going to get there. You're going to drive yourself insane. So think about, where do you want to be in a year? And what does that look like each and every single day? That does not mean that's all you're going to make each day. But what it means is, reset, refocus, and understand that you're doing well. Don't think you're not doing well because your buddy's making more. Always think about where you're at, and think about it's your time will come, and you're gonna have this hot streak. You're gonna have this moment where you make this big trade, and then it just starts to really pick up from there. And everybody that I've known that has become exceptional has had this one moment that they can go back to, and it's like that one trade that set them free. And that happens when you trade well. And by doing the right process over and over and over and over again, at some point you're going to have that outlier breakout, and it's going to set you free. And that's when, it all starts to make more sense. It starts to compound. And it's just about what you can do from there to better your process to continue to keep it going. So point here is that you've got one end of the spectrum where everybody's killing it and like questioning, why they're even still here. And then you've got this other end where these guys all, they feel like they missed the boat. They want to be part of it. They feel like they're not good enough. They feel like they haven't made enough. But you have to always rezone back into why you started doing what you did. And so, for him, great trader, understands, has a great toolkit with, some solid strategies, which don't work right now, right? They don't work right now. So he had to kind of reevaluate and adapt. And he was able to. So the point is, you do you, Focus on becoming a better you each and every single day, just like I say every single week. It will come if you have a process. If you're just here for the numbers, the P&L, then give it up. You got to have a process for the long term. Last couple things, and then we'll get right into a scan. You got to be alert. You got to stay alert. You got to be focused in this market, and you got to be energized. And when I do those 4, 5, 6 a.m. wake ups, it's tough and it's hard. My body clock gets me up at like 4:30 anyway, which truthfully I do peak. It's not my goal, but I do look and then see, okay, what's up? What do I need borrows for? And then I try to go back to bed until 5, 5:30, 6, whatever. And then now that I have a Peloton, I try to do that in the morning as well. But you've got to stay fit in a at least energy wise, to be able to do this and stay focused throughout the day. A lot of people ask me, how do you keep going? How do you keep on doing that? And honestly, if Zach was not on my case with Avidity Fitness, I probably would be just on the couch and doing nothing. So you create energy by staying active. So I haven't said it in a while. I'm going to say it again. If you guys need that push, if you guys want to get involved, come and join us Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Come and do the workouts. They're anywhere from 15, 20 minutes to 35 minutes. It's all on Zoom. You can put your camera on if you want, or you can take it off. Most have it on. The good part about having it on is Zach will tell you, if you need to adjust something or whatever. So if you need that kick in the butt, if you want to be motivated, come. I do it. My wife does it. And we've got a bunch of traders. So give it a shot. DM Zach, which is Avidity Fitness on Twitter or Instagram, and you can do a free week or two. He really doesn't care, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think you will see a benefit from your trading because you'll be more focused and energized. Speculation is at an all-time high, as we know. It always comes back down to supply and demand. What I've noticed lately is just this huge volume. The more volume that trades, the more of a chance that there's going to be that secondary move. So we've seen a lot of big volume days consolidate for 14, 28, 2 to 4 weeks, and then takes off. That chart setup has been working phenomenally. And, I just keep on going back to those setups over and over and over. Basically, an ABCD on the daily and an ABCD on the intraday. When they merge, when there's that multiple time frame breakout, I want in. I want to be part of that. And I will keep on taking that setup over and over and over again until it stops working. And you saw a bunch of those last week and how they worked out. Last couple things, trading for income versus compounding wealth, right? So a lot of my tweets lately have been more about, how do you compound? So, there's two types of traders, and I kind of talked about both, right? And as you progress, it's going to be less about trading for income. It's less about like, I'm going to scalp. Scalping is a great source of income. It's income. It's not building wealth. It's not building a large account or anything like that. It is, it's I've mentioned it millions of times, but it's not a means of exponential growth, right? So as you start to look at big picture and get out of the in out, you will start to see exponential growth. However, the in outs and the scalping and all that stuff is good to build your account. It's a good income generator. But at some point, you need to know and you need to be aware that your journey should be to start thinking big picture, macro view, because that's when you start to get those exponential rewards or returns or growth. The last two notes I had was OTCs and OTCs bounce plays. So my goal for this week is to focus more on OTC bounce plays. And OTCs I don't alert. I don't trade them in the room or anything like that. I see a lot of guys in the OTC room, fantastic alerts, great entries, great everything. But OTC bounce plays used to be something I was very good at. at 18, 19, 20 years old. And, we'll see if I still got it. But it's one thing that I've ignored, and I'm not trying to put something else on my plate, but I do feel like there is some major opportunities that if I just put in a little bit more work on, these three are my potentials of, bounce plays that I'm interested in. There's been some monster bounces. So, and I'm talking about straight up, comes down, unwinds, play that bounce, and you get that 30, 40, 50% bounce. And, sometimes even more. It could be a stock that goes to a penny, comes back down to 0.004, and then doubles to 0.008. That kind of stuff's happening every single day. So anyway, that's my personal goal for this week, to kind of start to venture into the bounce plays a little bit. But we'll see, at what capacity, I'll be running, and if I do have the room to do that. So anyway, next section will be the scan for Tuesday, because obviously we had Monday off this week. All right, guys, second part of the scan is the scan itself. This time it is for Tuesday through the rest of the week. First and foremost, as you guys know, we always put the disclaimer below. These are my ideas, how I'm looking to trade the market, things that I think are important, and potential trades for this week. They are by no means buy or sell recommendations, and this is for educational and informational purposes only. If you're not okay with that, you should shut the scan off. But if you're okay with that and you want to learn something and hopefully be able to apply some of these ideas and kind of technical analysis and things like that to your trading, then carry on. Tilray was fantastic. This was a great trade on Friday as well as Thursday. But the goal, as always, with a chart like this, a daily chart, is to ideally get a gap down, flush, and rally. And that's exactly what we did. I bought long off the open. That was the plan. Got the flush out, and then we got that nice rally. Once it exhausted out, I looked for the failed fall through momentum, and that's exactly the trade that we took. You can see that this support finally cracked, and it did not look back since. You had a little bit of failed fall through momentum right over here. This is what I look for. I look for areas where it's starting to have trouble. And as it starts to fade and fail off those levels, I want to be part of that. Dip buyers become pop sellers. And dip buyer. Uh-oh. Seller. So, Tuesday, what do I want to do with this thing? I think that we could potentially gap up. And if we do, I think that it would probably gap up into possibly, we closed at about 29, 30 range or so, high 29s. We could potentially gap up into the 30, 31 range, maybe squeeze out to 32, and then I think we settle back down. If we had a gap down, you can see that there's a decent amount of support in this 28 range, 28.50, 28.80 range. So if we did gap down and flush, I do think that we could come back up and retest towards this level. So, in a situation like this, if we get a 26, 27, 26 gap down, it flushes, that for me is an edge. If we get a gap up and it pushes out, once it starts to fail, this is the type that I feel like it'll probably settle back down to flat or a little bit red on the day. BNGO is one of those that's just like you never really envisioned seeing this up here, but it's here. It came from under $1, under 50 cents, and it just it's very surprising to see it hold so long. Just like GVO and NVIS. I mean, this is the exact supply and demand. Embrace the chase. Like this is exactly what 2021, 2020 is all about. All these names. So you gotta deal with it. And throw away everything that you learn, and it is what it is. So right now we are coming up on some resistance, and we pretty much tested it and closed above it. However, we might still have a little bit of issues with that in the coming week. So higher the better, and I'm thinking that it could potentially settle back under this 1350 level. If it stays heavy, maybe fades off sub 13, 1280s, 1250s, and from that point forward, not sure. If it stays heavy, I'd love to keep scaling. But I'm just looking for the high, probability setup. And to me, that would be any good gap up. And if you take a look at, sort of how it traded, you can see that we pretty much have a 1380 base and, a little bit of trouble around the 1420, 1430 range. So if it were to gap up 1450s and break out, I'd be looking to fade that trend back to retest this. I would want to assume that it's going to hold that level. So usually I would trim down, and then if it stays heavy, I would scale back in for the potential unwind. Otherwise, I'm thinking that if we opened relatively weak, we might have trouble with 1380s, 1390s, and in which case I would be looking to fade failed follow through momentum setups versus those levels. So we'll see what happens with that. As I said in the room, and usually when Cody and I have the similar idea, we both kind of said the same thing. But I'll credit him. He said it first, but I was thinking it. But it kind of reminded me that we were looking at BTBT, right? Where it's like, man, this thing should have gone down. I feel like people got on the wrong side too much too soon. It does not mean that we're not going to have a fabulous short trade at some point, but there's a thing that we've talked about, supply and demand. And when there is too much demand and too much of the bad supply, in this case shorts, then that's when you end up with a nice short squeeze. There's always a supply and demand where the supply could be paper, offerings, just selling a bunch of, worthless junk. But if that paper, that sell pressure comes from the shorts and the demand remains, at some point it's going to come to a head and squeeze everybody out. And that's where I think we're at on this. Who knows what happens, but I would not underestimate that if Bitcoin stays hot, and it did have a pretty good dip to 45. It's pretty much back to about 47. If we're 47, 48, 50, 52, I mean this thing could go. So don't underestimate it. I think we're gonna have some great trades, and I'm also gonna short it too. But I want to know in the back of my mind that hey, this thing is aggressively squeezing folks. So your edge, if you're going to short it, me, if I'm going to short it in the morning, my edge is taking that trade. When it flushes out, taking that trade is my edge. The longer that I stay around when it's going sideways, the more my risk goes up. Because guess what? Everybody's already bent. From somebody that is not bent yet, there's somebody that is not short yet, somebody that is just coming in with a clear view. If I see an opportunity to get short for that flush, just know that your edge is covering into the flush, because the second that it starts to find a new base, everybody that just kind of averaged up is going to be going for the exit and cover. So keep that in mind. Be cautious with it. Just because I'm looking to potentially short it does not mean I'm short biased. I think this could break out. I would have no problem joining that trend. Same thing with Riot. Riot could continue to go. Again, there's a lot of confusion, when somebody says looking to short it and they think, it's short thesis, right? It's not the case. I'm just looking to trade overextensions, get in, get out, and hopefully it continues to go higher. I'm looking for highly probable profit-taking spots, highly profitable pullback spots, and things like that. If there's a long setup, I'll take it. But, Riot for me, I was early on Friday. I got a nice trade off the open, so I felt, all right, I got a good read on this thing. I'll watch it with Bitcoin. Then I started to scale back in, and it proved that it wanted to hold twice. So if you go back and take a look, you can see that it basically put in a new base, and failed follow through, comes back in, and it kissed VWAP, and then it continued on. To me, that says, guess what? We're going higher. So instead of fighting it, I took the loss and I waited for a better opportunity. And because I did that, I was able to nail that exact trade, which was fantastic. I was able to get in there I sized in, and then I added, and then I added, and I covered into the flush, and it was a great trade. And it's because I did not pre-exhaust. I did not try to find the top, try to find the top, try to find the top. No, I got in there, I was wrong, I moved on, and I waited till I got the edge with Bitcoin. ARTL is one of those where it could go either way. what is interesting to me is the volume, right? So we've got 250 million shares traded. So if, this type of setup could go either way. I'm not trying to make a call and say long or short, but what I am saying is if this holds, in my opinion, there's a lot of shorts here. And if this gaps up and it fails off of the 270s, 280 level and starts to fade off, then I think it's going to go lower. But if it gaps up and it starts to form a base, 260s, 270s, 280s, I think that there's a lot of shorts left. There was no real reason to cover into the close, but the volume, nearly 300 million tells me, hey, there could be potential here. So I want to be prepared either way. If I was looking to short, I want a big gap up, failed fall through 9:45, 10 a.m. trend join. If I was looking to get long, which I'm totally cool with doing, I'd want to see that base firm up, base a little bit higher, firm up, and kind of scale versus VWAP or 9:45, 10 a.m. Support levels. So that's the thought process on those. Those are my main watches. So I think that's actually more than usual. I think that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So, I'm sure we'll have a couple off of radar in the morning, and I'm sure we'll have a couple new ones off radar because, as you guys know, every morning, you wake up with 7 200% gappers. So we'll see what happens. A couple that I'm monitoring. So CLEU. This is an example. This is actually one that I was up huge. I bought this flush in the morning. I had a great average, 640s, 670s, 680s, 720s. I kept on adding to the winner. And I was up huge at 10. And once again, a newsletter came in. And I have a rule that when a newsletter comes in, I should be getting out. And, I didn't. I felt like it had traded enough. And, based on the float versus the volume, thought I had a chance. So instead, it opened up and it stuffed out of the open. I ended up minimizing the trade. I was up very nicely and ended up minimizing the trade. I moved on, obviously. I didn't want to overstay. But, it would have taken, all the way back to like 10 a.m. to break even. But point is it was annoying and I knew better. But then it squeezed out. And so I was like, man, this thing has the potential because it is a pretty thin name. It's got a lot of volume. It could definitely go. However, if it's going to be some type of after hours type of ripper, then one, it has to kind of chill out. You don't want it to be too strong because if it's too strong, they're going to exhaust out all the shorts. And I think that's exactly what happened. And so then, I go from potential major short idea or short squeeze idea to, oh man, this thing's staying pretty heavy. I don't want to participate. I'm not even interested because now you've got all these people that are buying dips. They need to get shaken out. They need to get flushed out in order for it to go higher. And you saw a little bit of that with the BSQR idea in the prior days, which was right over here. And, you've got these nice breakouts, but you don't want to rebuy too soon. You don't want to assume that it has to break out. Otherwise, you're going to be part of the rotation that they're trying to get you out before they squeeze it up. Rotation, get you out before they squeeze it up. So always think about that. You don't want to be taking the same trade as everybody else. Because if everybody's got the same idea and it's doing something else, all of those people need to get out. They need to get shaken out. They need to get tested. Maybe they don't sell, but they need to at least get tested. Do you have, and to use a 2021 term, diamond hands, right? So if you don't sell here, and you don't sell here, and you don't sell here, then you're probably not going to sell as it goes up. But if you have too many, they're going to work you out. They're going to work you out. They're going to work you out. And that's what consolidation is. That's what, this is all about. All right, so ZIM, I am just monitoring for failed follow through. This could go to 80 for all I care. But it is on my radar. I am going to be watching for that trade as it happens. But it's gone from 11, 12 to 20. The volume's relatively thin, about 1 million a day. But I think we're going to have some type of opportunity. If it starts to go 22, 25, 28, I'm interested. And it'll be a nice quick in and out. On to the continuation ideas. The continuation ideas of this scan are more of the long ideas. charts that I like, things that I'd be looking to pick up for on dips, and so on and so forth. MREO is sort of a medium-term idea for me. It's got plenty of cash after the last raise. We just had a 13G after hours on Friday. I would assume there's going to be maybe a couple more, maybe even tomorrow night or Wednesday based off of the recent offering. So for me, it's a medium-term kind of hold idea. As you guys know, I look for this type of big volume day, and then, you know, it kind of comes in, and then they just price offering, and then we have that potential of, you know, the continuation sort of breakout idea. So key levels for me, obviously you can see it's going to be this 350 area is the consolidation. It's also a good psychological, you know, kind of level where you'd want to see 350 base, firm a nice base, start to perk off, prove that it wants to hold higher lows. And then, you know, this is, again, it's more of like a medium term. I'm not looking to just day trade this into tomorrow or the next day. It's, for me, I'm going to be looking to accumulate dips. If the wicks continue to prove me correct, and as you can see, each time it dips down, it's got some, you know, a buyer that kind of comes in and soaks it. So they've got some collaboration license agreements, and they received $50 million up front. And they have another potential of $254 million, just to give a little bit of due diligence. They've got some phase 2 data in 2021 and multiple pipeline products. So just to give a little bit more color, it's not just a chart play, but thinking that this could potentially start to build over the near term. So it is a focus, especially if we get over this hump over here. And if we do, then great. Craig, you guys know I've been talking about this since the high 6s, low 7s. I felt like it kind of reminded me of Pola, P-O-L-A. And as you guys know, I traded this from here. Same thing with PPSI. It was the same idea, same thought, same time. So for me, I've been riding this thing since high 6s, low 7s, 8s, 9s, and I've been in there in the, on dips. So letting this trade work, and if I need to adjust, I will adjust. If it starts to get heavy and fail to follow through, I will adjust down a little bit. If it starts to, break out and it gives me opportunities to scale up more, I will adjust up a little bit. FTFT, great breakout setup. I think it was starting to perk up a little bit after hours. This is one of those setups where, we could be looking at 10, 12, 15 in the near term. I don't want to get too ahead of myself or it, but no position. I am just looking to potentially trade. Ideally, it sets up and does the big breakout. Once again, it should look familiar. I look for that big volume, then the consolidation. Things to be aware of. If it gaps up, has a bunch of volume tomorrow morning, and then just fades off, that could ruin that. This could be the kind of that exhaustion move, and then it just fades off the rest of the time. However, if it starts to build, that's what gets my interest. MFH, I joined the trend. It should look familiar with the charts that we talk about every single week. This was just on my scanner, and I just kind of joined the trend on Friday. BRQS, nice consolidation after the breakout day. As you guys know, I put that idea on Twitter at $2. You had the huge volume day. You had this nice setup. You had this nice breakout over this 150 level. So for me, the key was going to become, this basically this prior top, which was 189 and then 2. Once it cleared that, it was off to the races. So I took advantage of that. Got long 2, made it all the way to 3. Sold into the ramps, and I hold about a 30% position of what I had. I'm looking to rescale into it if the trend continues. I think that it might take a week or 2 to kind of figure out whether or not it wants to go higher or just fade off. But I'm willing to kind of let that work. Have a couple other just like I said, OTCs have been going nuts, right? So again, this is nothing to it's not a suggestion to buy or sell. I'll be a seller into any big move. But just to kind of give you guys a glimpse of the charts that I'm looking for. I look for a big ramp up, pull back, starts to go back up, consolidates, and if it starts to go again, those have been paying extremely well. Those are all breakout trades. But like I said, my goal for this week is to also look for some bounce trades. GG, TTF, big breakout on Friday, and it held extremely well. So you could be looking at maybe a 10 or 20 cent type gap come Tuesday morning. I have a position in this one. I have a position in MAXD as well. But like I said, if it goes nuts, I'm a seller. But GGTTF, trying to say that 3 times fast. It's probably impossible. But higher the better, possibly 60s, 70s. We'll see what happens. But nice momentum, great volume. And we talk about this exact dip into the close where everybody could have bought and everybody was up and everybody's, perfect. But that dip will get out those hands that are oversized, those ones that bought for the breakout, those ones that, don't know what they're really doing and they just panic sold. So I like that action into close because just like on SNDL when I said, dips would be good for longevity, but, people take that as, he's short. Dips are good. Dips are good. You want things to come in and continue to work people out. Because if people have too many shares, if too little people have too many shares, they're going to influence the price a lot more, right? So the idea in what you've seen working is it just is so much volume, so many shareholders that the shares just kind of disappear and the stock just trickles up. That's the goal with these. And that's why pullbacks are good. That's why SNDL worked, is because it was trading 1 billion to 2 billion shares a day, as well as many pullbacks. Couple other OTCs on scan. I don't really care to, talk about them. You guys can go check them out. Look, AIKI, nice breakout here. This is another one of those where I wish I could go back and redo. But nice breakout. If we start to consolidate over 220, I mean, this thing could really go. So I'm going to be watching that. QS, I'll be watching. I did have a nice swing. I actually traded this day, but I did not partake in this current trade. So what I'm thinking is this could potentially, we're nearing the daily chart view up, but ideally we get into maybe a push towards 60s or something like that, maybe even higher. What I've noticed with these is they always overextend more than you think, right? So watch dips. We could have a nice short-term breakout and then looking for the fade back. Great volume on Friday, though, nearly 50 million. ASLN, wicks. We talk about the wicks, and same thing with ANTE. You can see the wicks. We talk about those wicks all the time. That's what I look for. ASLN, I actually had a decent sized swing at 225, 250 range. I think it was actually, if I remember correctly, 242. And then I sold it. I missed out on this, and this would have been fantastic because I'd still be long. However, I am looking to participate in dips versus 320s. And same thing, ANTE. The goal was the same. Just like I talked about, I think it was last Sunday. If not, it was on one of the weekly, the daily scans that I do for the subscribers. But you can see a nice build over here. 230s, 250 starts to base. Then we've got that nice ABCD daily chart breakout. And then there's been a buyer in the tape since. So I got long on that breakout. As you guys know, if you don't know from last video, then it was in the midweek scans. BLCT, I do not have a position here yet, but this one has my interest. I'd want to see it start to build because I could see myself just buying and then having it pull right back over the next couple days, just like this, right? So I want to be cautious of not buying into this. So what that means is I want to start in a position and I want to see it prove to me that it wants to base and take on the next leg. I don't want to get too top heavy by, chasing this breakout and then end up in a situation where, just like before, it just pulls right back. So I am interested dips. I would not want to own it if 1320s can't hold as a trend level. FWP, Slowly but surely it's getting accumulated. I've just been accumulating all these thin names, and it's been, working out very well. LEDs is an example of, all these names that I know you have this one day of big volume that comes in and it, kind of trickles off into the close. Well, the next day they've been coming back for it. So I've been kind of buying all these names that are thin, that have, ripped kind of quietly on the pullback days. And FTP is an example of that, where they had this kind of cleanup day, as I call it, where they, buyer comes in and then just kind of lets it trickle down. So then I start to nibble a little bit, and if it starts to work, then I scale in. So like I said on Thursday, felt like there was a buyer in the tape, through the day, and same thing, it felt like the buyer kind of came back in there, but they're not in a rush, and that's exactly why I got into Craig as well. In prior days, prior weeks, it's just because each day it felt like there was a buyer in the tape, not really in any rush, but every time it pulled back, it just seemed to kind of get soaked. So anyway, a couple more. CRNT breakout chart, love this. No position yet, looking to get involved. You can see that they're starting to soak the dips here. This is one of those that kind of looks like it could end up being 7 and 10 in the near term. Maybe medium, short term type trade. But I'll be watching that. Good volume. Go. I joined the trend on Friday. We'll see what happens with that. And last but not least, DPW. I started in some on Friday. Pretty good breakout intraday. Came back in a little bit after hours, then resettled. But this is one of those where they just change their business model literally every 24 hours to whatever is hot. So look, if this thing gets over 6, it could go 7, 8, 9, 10 real fast. So we'll see what happens with it, but nothing that I'm too crazy excited about until that happens. I just wanted a little bit of a position. WNW, another nice one this week. It's been pretty crazy with the amount of runners that are out there. So as usual, I've got a staying familiar section here, and you can go through and see some other charts that I like. I'm not making plans for everything. CCIV, I think everybody should be familiar with. I think we're going to have some major trades on it. The range is starting to pick up. So it should be great. And, we'll see what happens. So stay familiar with a bunch of these names. See what you like. Set some price alerts. If you stay familiar with these, when they hit your price alert, you're going to be ready for that trade. And that's how I trade. Some people may think it's overload, but you'd be surprised if you see a chart once or twice, or you go back. Sometimes I put these charts just on scan because they update. So if you go to the description in YouTube and you click, you can actually see the charts too. But go back on Wednesday, go back on Thursday. You can see, okay, hey, that's setting up again. I'm going to keep, and it might not show up on any of your other scans. So keep that in mind, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the week. But stay focused. Like it's like a Monday, even though it's a Tuesday. But just like I started this whole Sunday scan, stay focused, and you don't need to trade. And if you just adjust a little bit and just focus on those A+ opportunities, the what you're best at. Sometimes people ask me, what's the best strategy to build an account? It's different for everybody. So focus on what you're the best at and just keep repeating that over and over and over again. And you'll be surprised at how fast that adds up. And the last note that I will leave you with, same thing I tweeted this weekend, stop counting your cash. Stop counting your accounts and say, okay, this plus this plus this, I'm worth X. My accounts are worth this. I'm at this. The sooner that you let yourself just go and just let the process take over, you'll be surprised at just where those accounts go. Because when you become detached from the account value, you worry less about the money and more about the trade, which is the way that it should be. So that's what I'll leave you with, guys. I will see you in the room tomorrow. If you have any questions, reach out. As always, thumbs up, please, and leave your biggest or your key takeaway. And you can even write the time. If you're on the YouTube version of this watching it, you can write the time, and it'll actually link up so other people can click it and hear it. So, for example, if you liked something at 17 minutes and 18 seconds, you can type 17:18, and it will make a little hyperlink so that somebody else can go listen to your key takeaways. So try that this week. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll do t-shirts next week, as well as probably some other stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and see you tomorrow.